What if what we call thought is merely the geometric echo of a greater intelligence? What if your mind, trained to solve, to measure, to interpret, was never meant to think, but to translate the silence that comes before form? Perhaps that's why certain ideas don't feel like yours. They arrive like presences, as if something ancient is dictating symbols into your awareness. The scribes of the invisible knew this. They weren't writing words, they were transcribing pulses. Their temples had no windows, yet they resonated like instruments, because they knew the mind is a temple where sound folds into geometry, a sound you also carry, but perhaps never truly heard. There is a code, hidden beneath your logic, a silent seal vibrating behind your thoughts. Some saw it as light, others as the Cube of Metatron. But across all sacred traditions, a single whisper remains. The mind is a bridge, and a bridge only activates when you stop walking and start listening. Listen, the sound has begun, and the code is already revealing itself. What if some codes were never meant to be read with the eyes, but only remembered by vibration? They say the scribes of the first temples never held books. They listened to the walls, to the air, to the space between the stars, and when the sound took shape, they transcribed it, not into language, but into form. They called it sacred geometry, but it was more than shape. It was memory made visible. These weren't just priests. They were translators of vibration, and among them there was one who walked alone, not out of exile, but out of silence. His name would echo across time as Thoth, the scribe of the gods, the master of the mental plane, the one who wrote with frequency. To understand the mental plane, you must first abandon the idea of thinking. Thinking, as you know it, is linear, but Thoth's mind was spherical. It didn't move from thought to thought. It listened to the entire field, as if the universe was humming one eternal note, and every idea was just a harmonic of that tone. Now listen carefully, not with your ears, but with that ancient part of you that remembers silence as language. Can you feel a geometric pressure behind your forehead? A subtle pull in the center of your thoughts? That's not imagination. That is resonance. The ancients knew, when the mind stops interpreting, it begins receiving. You are not thinking. You are translating. And what you're translating is older than time. In the temples of Atlantis, there were no bookshelves, only rooms of vibration, spaces tuned to specific frequencies. Each room was a living code, and to enter was to remember a piece of yourself you had forgotten. There was one chamber, however, that none could enter without first crossing a threshold of stillness. They called it the Chamber of the Mind, not because it held knowledge, but because it held formless understanding. What does this mean? It means your mind was never yours. It is an echo chamber of something greater, something older, something that thinks through you when you become still enough to listen. And the proof lies in the cube. The Cube of Metatron is not just geometry. It is a symbolic interface, a bridge between Thoth's mental current and Metatron's celestial record. It contains the Platonic solids, yes, but deeper still, it holds a mental resonance map. It's not a shape, it's a vibrational portal, and it only responds to minds that are listening. Visualize this. You are sitting in the chamber of the mind. No light, only stillness. Suddenly, above your head, a shape forms in the dark, not with light, but with presence. 12 lines, 13 circles, one pulse. Your thoughts begin to quiet, not because you're trying, but because something else is thinking you. You are not the thinker. You are the temple in which thought arrives. The cube is not outside you. It is the mind's true geometry, waiting for remembrance. Do you now feel it? The subtle dissonance behind your daily thoughts, the sense that there is a code just behind the veil. You're not alone. Every seeker, every mystic, every initiate has stood at this edge, where logic fails and only listening remains. That is the threshold, and once you cross it, nothing you ever thought remains the same, because now the thoughts are not yours. They are messages from the field, and the field speaks in Metatron's geometry, but it listens in Thoth's silence. This is only the beginning. The code cannot be read. It must be recalled, and recall begins when the mind stops echoing itself. Let it go. Let it echo something older. You are ready. If something awakened in your field, honor the signal. Like this video and subscribe now. That single act may be what anchors the code into your timeline. What begins here continues where words no longer reach. What if silence wasn't the absence of thought, but the birthplace of geometry? We are taught to trust logic, to seek order, to label. But what if true order doesn't begin with clarity? It begins with presence, and presence begins with listening. The sages of old did not name the world to control it. They named it because they had listened to its vibration long enough to hear its true tone. Every tree had a note, every river a chord, every star a pulse. The mind, then, was not a tool of analysis. It was a mirror of the divine cadence, and the most powerful minds were not the ones that spoke, but the ones that listened the deepest. There is a story hidden in the dust of temple stones. They say that once, in a land beyond even memory, a group of initiates stood before Thoth. Each carried a question, a burning need to know the origin of thought. But Thoth did not answer. He gestured toward a vast chamber. Inside it, no words, only silence, and carved in the air itself a suspended cube made of vibrating light. The initiates entered, and one by one, they fell silent, not out of reverence, but because their own thoughts had become too loud to hear what the cube was saying. Only when they let go of the need to understand did the geometry begin to speak. "You do not think to understand," Thoth whispered without sound. "You become silence, and the understanding finds you." Let this be your initiation. Close your eyes now, just for a moment. Breathe in through the nose, and hold. Exhale slowly through the mouth. Let the rhythm anchor you. Now imagine your mind as a chamber. Its walls are dark, but alive. The air is thick with vibration. Above you, something begins to appear, not visually, but energetically. You don't see it. You feel its presence shaping space. And then, the cube, not as an object, but as a pattern that begins to arrange your thoughts differently. Some thoughts dissolve, others realign. You are not controlling anything. You are being restructured. And what is restructuring you is the sacred mind of Thoth, that ancient architect who never shouted, only whispered in spirals. Let that image stay with you. The cube is not there to be looked at. It is there to be felt as architecture, a scaffolding of consciousness revealing itself from the inside out. You are inside the code. You are the living chamber where Metatron's pattern meets Thoth's frequency. And this is only the first layer. The mind has many halls. Some spiral inward. Some rise like stairways of light. Some descend into vaults of memory so old they no longer use language. Each hall holds a truth, but none can be unlocked by effort. Only resonance opens those doors. You've felt it before, haven't you? A flash of insight that seemed to come from nowhere. A knowing that arrived complete without steps. That was not you thinking. That was the field speaking through the geometry of your mental plane. So why do we forget? Why is this natural state so distant? Because the modern world taught you to use your mind as a weapon, not as a temple. It told you to dissect, to prove, to win, but never to surrender, to harmonize, to remember. This is not your fault. It is the way the veil was constructed. But now, the veil is thinning. And what waits behind it is not knowledge, it is structure. It is the sacred arrangement of consciousness, and it is waiting for you to remember how to hold it. The mind was never yours to own. It is a sacred architecture borrowed from the stars. Imagine this. You're walking through a forgotten city. Its streets are empty but not abandoned. Every wall holds inscriptions you can't yet read, not because they're foreign, but because they require a different frequency of awareness. Suddenly, you feel watched, not by eyes, but by a presence embedded in the very geometry of the place. You stop, you touch one of the symbols, and it touches back. You don't understand the meaning, but something inside you rearranges, and in that moment, you realize you're not exploring a city. You are walking inside your own mental structure, a temple built in a language you once knew, a map of the invisible, encoded in form, and every step you take is a return. This is what the mental plane truly unlocks. Not ideas, not thoughts, but alignment with the structure behind reality itself. And that structure has a name whispered across cultures. The cube, the code, the mind of Thoth. So now, breathe again, and let the old geometry echo in you, because you are not here to read the code. You are here to become its living memory. Not all bridges are made of stone. Some are woven with thought. Others are carved in silence. We often think of thought as something contained, a function within the head, private and personal. But what if thought is not something you generate, but something you cross? What if the mental plane is not a layer inside you, but a bridge that spans worlds invisible but alive? When the ancients spoke of mind, they were not referring to the brain. They spoke of an entire dimension, a realm of pattern, signal, blueprint, a subtle river that runs between what is seen and what is still in vibration. They knew thoughts don't arise in isolation. They enter from the field, travel through the bridge of the mind, and materialize as emotion, image, or matter. As above, so below, but also, as within the mind, so without in the form. Let us walk back into myth, not to escape reality, but to meet it where it was first imagined. There is an ancient image, a lone traveler crossing a bridge of light suspended between two mountains. Behind him, the visible world. Ahead, a temple with no doors, only an opening that responds to frequency. The bridge does not hold him by structure, but by resonance. If his thoughts distort, the bridge flickers. If his intention aligns, it stabilizes. He realizes the bridge is made of his mental vibration, and that bridge is the plane of mind. This story is not fiction, it is memory. Every time you try to imagine a future, you are standing on that same bridge. Every time you receive an insight, a moment of knowing that bypasses logic, you are touching its railing. But here is the paradox. The bridge cannot be crossed by willpower, only by surrender, because it is not you who crosses, but the alignment between your vibration and the field's resonance. Let's go deeper. The mental plane, in its sacred context, is the realm of pattern before manifestation, where vibration becomes architecture, where thought begins to weave the scaffolding of form. It is not emotional. It is not physical. It is the pure architect, the sacred geometric intelligence that writes the script of the cosmos before the actors ever enter the stage. This is why Thoth is the master of this plane, because he does not feel his way through. He listens to the order behind chaos, the symmetry behind sound, the logic that governs the ineffable, and he translates it. His words are not advice, they are geometry encrypted in language. His scrolls are not history, they are mirrors of the mental plane. So where does that leave us? You, here, now, are not merely a thinker. You are a translator standing between two realities, the world you see and the world waiting to be written. And that act of translation happens in the bridge, the invisible plane of mind. You don't just cross the bridge, you are the bridge. Let us return to your life. How many times have you known something without proof? How often have you sensed a direction, a pattern, a clarity, before the situation appeared? That is the bridge in action. That is your mind functioning not as processor, but as antenna. And what happens when the bridge is ignored? You feel disconnected. You feel like you're floating without structure. Your thoughts spiral, not because they're wrong, but because they're not anchored to the source field. The bridge has dimmed, not broken, just waiting for you to pause, to realign. Let's realign now. Close your eyes again. Inhale, let the breath rise like a stairway. Exhale and step onto the bridge. No need to visualize, just sense, as if your thoughts became threads, and those threads began to hum, not individually, but as one field. This is the crossing. This is where thought becomes communion. Now, imagine this. A scribe sits inside a high chamber. He is not writing, he is waiting. A silence so deep surrounds him it feels carved in gold. And then, without warning, his hand begins to move. He doesn't know why. He doesn't need to, because the bridge has opened. The code has arrived, and the mind is only the pen. You are not here to think for yourself. You are here to think with the all. The mental plane is not personal. It is transpersonal. It is collective. It is universal intelligence whispering in fractals. And you, when still enough, can hear it, can shape it, can bridge it into form. This is why the Cube of Metatron is not passive. It is not a symbol to admire. It is a living bridge interface. It aligns your mind to the mental plane. It stabilizes the frequencies. It filters chaos. And when activated, it helps you hold the thought of God without distortion. This is the real reason it has been hidden. Not because it is dangerous, but because it requires a mind that has been emptied of noise. Now you know, your thoughts are not yours. They are signals crossing a vast bridge. Some resonate, some distort, but the more you listen, the clearer they become. And eventually, your thoughts stop being thoughts. They become geometry. They become symbols. They become bridges for others to cross. If what you just felt opened something within you, let it anchor now. Like this video and subscribe. That simple act keeps the resonance alive for others seeking the same crossing. Before words, there was Thoth. Before sound, there was structure. And before you were born, a geometry already knew your name. In the beginning, there was not light. There was measure. a field of stillness vibrating in harmonic proportion, a silence so perfect it did not need to speak. And yet, from this silence emerged a mind that could listen it into form. That mind is known as Thoth, not a god in the mythological sense, not merely a figure etched in stone, but a living intelligence, a vibrational archetype that translates the formless into form, and does so not with effort, but with pure coherence. When the ancients spoke of creation, they didn't speak of explosions. They spoke of intent-made structure. The universe was not built, it was spoken, and the voice that carried the first frequencies into form was not vocal, it was geometric. It was the voice of Thoth. He did not shout creation into being, he whispered it, in spirals. To understand Thoth is to relearn what it means to think, to reshape the concept of intelligence from linear logic into sacred proportion. He is not the source, he is the scribe of the source. His mind does not invent, it remembers the tone, the interval, the alignment between silence and shape, and it is from this memory that reality crystallizes. Let us return to the temple, not the one in stone, but the one inside your own mental body. Imagine walking through a corridor of translucent walls. Each one vibrates with a different tone, and each tone shapes the air into moving symbols. You are not reading, you are not hearing, you are being rewritten, because in this temple, Thoth is not outside you. He is the pattern within you that always knew how to hold the code. So why has he been forgotten? Because in a world obsessed with surface, the deep listener is exiled, and Thoth doesn't compete with noise. He waits for those who can still feel the pull of structure behind the chaos, the hum behind the thought, the spiral beneath the storm. To remember Thoth is to remember the geometry of your own becoming. He is the one who measures without rulers, who writes without ink, who counts without numbers, because everything is already written in the vibration of form itself. This is why his symbol is not a crown, but a pen, and not just any pen, but one that etches vibration into matter. His words don't teach, they reorder. His scrolls don't explain, they activate. Now feel this, a pressure at the base of your skull, a subtle alignment in your spine, a rhythm in your breath you didn't place there. This is Thoth, not as a deity, but as a structure activating in your field. You don't need to believe, you only need to allow the mind to stop leading and start echoing, because Thoth doesn't arrive when called. He reveals himself when the geometry is right. Let's deepen that geometry now. Visualize this, a scroll suspended in space. Its letters glow, but not with light, with pattern. You reach toward it, and the scroll unfolds into a cube, the Cube of Metatron, and then you hear it, not as sound, but as a harmonic alignment of thought. Each face of the cube carries a frequency. Each frequency aligns a different corridor of your mind, and in that moment, you are no longer you. You are the scribe, the scroll, and the geometry being written. Thoth does not give answers. He aligns questions with the structure of truth. This is why the mind is sacred, not because it can analyze, but because it can hold vibration without distortion. The true purpose of the mind is not to generate ideas, it is to become a stable chamber for the divine to echo through. This is what Thoth teaches, and this is what modernity has forgotten. But now, you remember, not intellectually, but geometrically. You remember how it feels when thought is clear, not because it's clever, but because it's in resonance. You remember the sensation of a structure aligning inside you without effort, only presence. Some codes are not meant to be solved, they are meant to be entered. It begins as a symbol, a cube, simple, familiar. But the more you look, the more it begins to shift. 12 lines, 13 spheres, countless angles folding into each other, until you realize you are no longer looking at the cube is looking into you. This is not metaphor. The Cube of Metatron is a living architecture, a vibrational mirror that reveals the state of your internal geometry. You think you're observing it from the outside, but it is mapping your frequency from within. Let's pause here, because this is not a shape. It is the geometrized mind of creation itself, the bridge between Thoth's infinite intelligence and Metatron's celestial order. One scribe encoded the voice, the other, the form. Thoth whispered the thought, Metatron carved the vibration. The cube is where they meet, where sound becomes pattern, where intention finds form, where the word becomes world. There is a story. Long ago in the early temples there were no written laws, only vibrations carved into walls, so precise They could tune the mind of anyone who entered. One such pattern was guarded, never spoken aloud, only revealed in dreams to those who passed the trial of stillness. That pattern was the cube, but not as drawing, as gate, a gate that only opens when the inner frequencies match the code. This is the real secret of the cube. It is not a symbol to understand. It is a temple to enter. Let us enter. Close your eyes for a breath. Now feel, not imagine, a shape forming above your crown. It begins to rotate, not in space, but in thought. Each edge emits a tone. Each tone realigns a memory. You are not thinking. You are being retuned. The geometry is not decoration. It is instruction. It is the mental DNA of the universe, and it is rearranging the scaffolding of your reality in silence. Now you understand why it was hidden, because the cube responds only to those who do not try to control it, but offer themselves to it. You do not decode the cube. You become silent enough to let it decode you. The 13 circles within it, each represents a layer of vibration from the unmanifest into the seen. They are not abstract. They are living currents, each one a step in the descent of light into matter. And the lines, they are not just connections. They are bridges of thought, threads of pure structure binding what is above to what is ready to be born below. So when you meditate with the cube, you are not visualizing, you are realigning. You are stepping into a chamber where sound becomes space and space becomes remembrance. This is not imagination, it is initiation. Because the cube doesn't respond to belief, it responds to geometry. And when your mental field begins to vibrate in consonance with its form, you begin to think in structure, not with effort, but with presence. You stop thinking like a person. You start thinking like the field. To enter the cube is to be remembered by the all. Let's deepen it. Inhale, as if pulling light through the top of your head. Let it spiral down, tracing the lines of the cube as they descend. Exhale, and feel each face of the cube click into place within your mind. Now let silence hold you. No words, just alignment. Let the form do the speaking. Let it rearrange what you call self. This is why Metatron is called the scribe of heaven, not because he writes with pen, but because his geometry writes realities. His cube is not instruction, it is interface, a system that receives vibration and returns structure. Your thoughts enter, a reality exits. This is the template of creation. And here is the key. The more aligned your inner field becomes, the clearer the response from the cube. If you hold distortion, you receive confusion. If you hold resonance, you receive crystallized form. This is the sacred responsibility of the awakened mind, to think not for entertainment, but for construction. The cube does not react to what you want. It responds to what you are aligned with. So ask yourself, what are you broadcasting? What geometry does your inner language carry? Are your thoughts coherent? Are they sacred? Are they fit to become worlds? The cube will answer, always, with silence or with manifestation. Either way, you will know which part of this code became a living symbol inside you. Leave it below in the comments. Your fragment may unlock someone else's path. Geometry is not design. It is memory, made visible through vibration. Before any temple was built, before any language was spoken, before gods had names, there was pattern, a pulse, a spiral, a breath, looping into itself until it became form. That form is what the ancients called sacred geometry, not because it was pretty, not because it followed rules, but because it was the echo of divine thought, frozen into shape. Geometry was not drawn, it was heard, it was received. And what they heard was the voice of creation, solidified. Let's return, not to Egypt, not to Atlantis, but to the very first temple, the silence behind your eyes. There, something begins to stir, not as thought, but as structure. You feel it, don't you? That subtle awareness that every true thought has a shape, and every real feeling carries a geometry. That's not imagination, that's initiation. All emotion is vibration. All vibration is form. All form is memory returning. This is why sacred geometry is not about symbols, but about resonant structures that remember how reality was written. It's why you react to the flower of life without knowing why. It's why a spiral calms you, why symmetry feels safe. Because somewhere deep in your field you remember being built by these shapes. These aren't designs, they are keys, and not to doors, but to frequency chambers inside your consciousness. Every sacred shape is a sentence, every symmetry, a message, and those messages are not read. They are absorbed. Imagine this. You walk into a temple, no statues, no prayers, only one shape carved into the center of the floor. You don't know what it means, but the moment you step into it, your thoughts realign, your spine straightens, your breath slows, your vision shifts. Why? Because the shape is singing to your geometry, and you are starting to remember the language. This is what the scribes knew. They didn't just write in glyphs. They encoded geometry into every line, because the goal wasn't just to be read, but to realign. This is why the tabula smaragdina is more than a text. It is a vibrational grid, and why the Cube of Metatron is not an object, but a sound you can see. Sacred geometry is the alphabet of the unspeakable. It says what silence cannot say. Let's go deeper. Think of a triangle, 3 points, stability, but also beginning, middle, end, creation, sustainment, destruction. Now rotate it. You get a pyramid, the first temple, the first antenna. Now mirror it. You get the star tetrahedron, a field that spins reality into being. This is not symbolic. It's structural. You are made of this. Your energy fields, your DNA, your emotions, all are geometry in motion. So the question is not, what does it mean? The question is, what does it do to my field? If a shape can change your breath, your posture, your clarity, it is a teacher, not a concept, but a mirror. Let's practice. Close your eyes. See a spiral, not spinning outward but inward. Each loop draws you closer, not to a place, but to a memory of being formless, before becoming shape. That spiral is not a symbol. It is your return path. Let it speak. Now bring forth the flower of life. See it pulse with quiet rhythm, not static, but breathing. Its petals are not design. They are waves of becoming. You're not just visualizing. You are realigning. You begin to feel it. Each sacred shape carries a frequency bandwidth. The more you hold it in mind, the more it tunes your field. It's not imagination. It's harmonic entrainment. The shape remembers your original vibration, and when you stay long enough, you begin to remember it too. This is what the ancient architects knew. They didn't build temples. They built resonance chambers. Pyramids weren't monuments. They were amplifiers. Stone circles weren't art. They were alignment matrices. Everything was form, but every form was a carrier wave of thought. And that thought? It wasn't human. It was the mind of the source echoing through shape. So when you meditate with sacred geometry, you're not contemplating symbols. You are entering the architecture of the original thought. And each time you enter, you shift. You become less story and more structure. Less identity, more vibration. This is why certain patterns find you at certain moments. They are not decorations. They are doorways. They arrive when your frequency is ready to unlock their code. And when that happens, you don't just see them. You remember how to think in their language. If the cube touched something real in your field, let it seal. Like this video and subscribe to the Emerald Code now. Not for the algorithm, but for the alignment. These codes don't just echo. They construct timelines. Before a thought becomes yours, it must pass through a temple. But not every mind remembers where that temple is. There is a chamber not made of stone. A temple not on land, but nested in the folds of your own thought. You have entered it before. In dreams, in moments of stillness, in that space between the inhale and the exhale, where something more intelligent than you begins to think on your behalf. This is the temple of thought. It has no altar, because your attention is the altar. It has no priest, because you are both the seeker and the sacred. It has no voice, because it speaks only in alignment. And you are standing at its threshold. Let us walk in. Close your eyes, not physically, but mentally. Withdraw your attention from the noise, and let the stillness gather, like mist on sacred ground. You step forward, and something shifts, not around you, but within you. Suddenly thoughts slow, not because you're forcing them, but because the temple is too coherent to allow distortion. Only aligned thoughts can enter here, and the moment a thought vibrates out of tune, it dissolves. This is not suppression, it is refinement. You are not thinking, you are being filtered by structure. The temple of thought does not teach you how to think. It reminds you what is worthy of becoming thought. As you walk, you notice. The walls pulse gently, not with color, but with idea. Each surface is a mirror, but not for your face, for your inner architecture. And what you see are not flaws. You see blueprints, the original design of your consciousness before distortion, before noise, You remember how it felt to think in sacred alignment. This is not meditation. It is reconstruction, because the temple does not entertain. It reorders. It takes the scattered fragments of your mental field and begins to restore the original geometry. Let's go deeper. You reach the inner sanctum. There is no light, yet everything is visible, not through vision, but through recognition. A glyph hangs in the center. It pulses, and as it pulses, you feel a pressure behind your forehead. Not painful, but initiatory. This is not a symbol to decipher. It is a shape that is decoding you, and it speaks, but not in sound, in alignment. And the message is this: your mind is not a chamber of opinions. It is a conduit of pure form. You kneel, not in submission, but in clarity, because here, inside the temple of thought, you realize every true thought is a prayer, every pure thought a pattern, and every aligned thought is a bridge between worlds. This is the real initiation, not into knowledge, but into mental silence that sings. You are being invited to think differently, not to be smarter, but to be truer to the original resonance that built stars and symbols with the same hand. Let's anchor this. Visualize your mind as a vast sphere, at the center, a flame, still, blue, ancient. Each time a distorted thought tries to rise, it flickers and fades. Only thoughts in harmony with that flame survive. Let your next thought emerge from that stillness. Don't chase it. Don't force it. Let it arrive like a guest invited into a sacred home. Now breathe and seal the temple, not to close it, but to protect its frequency. Because now, you carry it. You are not just the seeker. You are the temple. You are the alignment. You are the thought that remembers itself. You are not trapped in this reality. You are shaping it. With every silent frequency you forget you're emitting. Alchemy was never about lead and gold. It was never about metal. It was about mind. Because all substance is vibration, and all vibration can be rearranged, not through force, but through frequency match. This is mental alchemy. You've practiced it before, unknowingly, when you changed your mood through a single thought, when your presence shifted the energy of a room, when what you feared found you. You weren't manifesting, you were transmitting, and what came back was not attraction, but resonant architecture. Your mind is a tuning fork. Whatever note it holds, reality sings back. But here's the forgotten truth. The mind is not just a receiver. It's not just a mirror. It is a transmuter, a vibrational crucible, a place where thoughts enter as fragments and exit as form. This is the true process of alchemy: perception, vibration, transmutation, manifestation. Not because you desire, but because you align. Let's practice. Think now of a belief that limits you, not mentally, energetically. Feel where it lives in your field. Now, slow your breath. Visualize that belief not as a sentence, but as a shape. Maybe it's jagged, maybe it spins erratically. Now place it in your mental crucible. See the cube of Metatron descend around it. Watch the shape begin to reconfigure, not by argument, but by coherence. As the frequency rises, the shape softens. It begins to spin in new harmony, and then a new belief emerges. Not positive, not forced, true, anchored in resonant geometry. This is mental alchemy. You don't have to fight old thoughts. You only need to introduce a stronger frequency. The rest transmutes itself. This is why initiates of old trained not in facts, but in vibrational presence. They learn to hold frequency stronger than chaos, because the true alchemist doesn't impose, he aligns. And in that alignment, reality bends. Don't change the world, change your tone. The world follows. Let's go deeper. You are a waveform. Your thoughts, oscillations, your emotions, amplitudes, your body, a resonant chamber. When all these align around a single frequency, you become a transmitter of coherent intent. Reality must respond, not because it wants to, because it's built to echo coherence. This is what the Emerald Tablet meant by, as within, so without. It was never metaphor. It was physics of the sacred. The world is your echo chamber. You don't need to force it, just tune it. Let's visualize. See your mind as a golden ring. At the center, a point of stillness. From that point, frequencies rise, not as sound, but as light pulses. Each thought you choose adds or subtracts from the harmony. Now choose, not what to think, but what to resonate. Pick one frequency: stillness, clarity, joy, power. Hold it. Feel it shape your mental field. Now, let reality respond. not immediately, but inevitably, because that frequency is now anchored, and it is rewriting your script. Alchemy is not changing matter. It is retuning vibration until matter obeys. So next time you think you are stuck, ask, what frequency am I feeding this reality with? And if the answer doesn't match your vision, change the tone. Not the thought, the tone. Not the action, the frequency. Because the true alchemist doesn't build. He remembers the resonance that builds through him. Before thought became word, before word became form, there was only one thing: echo. Not a sound, not a sentence, but a pulse. So ancient, so still, so clear, that it echoed before there was anything to bounce off. That pulse was the first thought, but not a thought as you know it. No words, no meaning, just pure vibrational intent streaming from the unmanifest into the first ripple of becoming. You were there, not as a person, but as a frequency, nested inside that echo. And the echo said, I am, not to speak, but to vibrate, to stir the stillness with just enough resonance, to remember itself through form. The original thought was not about something. It was being, echoing into itself. That echo still exists, not in time, but in field. And the more your mind clears, the more you come close to it. It does not shout, it does not instruct, it simply resonates. And in its resonance, you begin to remember. You are never thinking, you are always listening. Let us listen now. Close your eyes, not to escape, but to return. Let the world around you blur, let thoughts soften, let time lose its grip. Now bring your awareness to the silence between your thoughts, not the thoughts, the silence between them. That space is not empty, it is pregnant with the original echo, and if you stay there, you begin to hear it, not as sound, but as reverberating beingness. It has no message, because it is the source of all messages. This is what the sages meant when they said, be still and know. Know what? That you are not the echoer, you are the echo. That first vibration, it never stopped. You just forgot how to tune to it. And now, you remember, not through intellect, through stillness, through becoming quiet enough to vibrate at its rhythm. Let's deepen. Visualize a point of light, not bright, not dim, just precise. It pulses, once, then again. Each pulse expands, not outward, but inward, as if the universe is not exploding, but folding into itself. This is the true direction of creation, inward resonance, not outward expansion. And in that center, the original echo is still speaking. It does not say, create. It says, remember the tone you were born with, because every soul carries a seed tone, and that tone is not taught, it is recalled. You don't find it in books, you don't learn it from teachers, you hear it when all other tones fade. This is why silence is not emptiness. Silence is structure without noise. Silence is the closest shape to the original thought, and the deeper you go into it, the more your current reality begins to bend in reverence. Not because you're powerful, but because you're finally in tune. So the next time you don't know what to do, don't ask. Just listen. Return to the echo. Because the answer is not what you think. It is the tone that forms before the thought appears. All creation begins before intention. It begins in remembrance. And here is the paradox. The echo never left. You did. You covered it with noise, with urgency, with wanting, but it waited. And now, you are returning to its tone, not to find meaning, but to become resonance again. Let this echo guide you, not forward, but inward, not to answers, but to the tone before the question. And in that tone, all things align, because all things were born from it. You just crossed a layer. The next is already revealing itself in the following video. Tune in now and stay in the echo. You were never thinking alone. The universe was always thinking through you. There is a mind that is not yours. And yet, you've always called it I. It thinks in spirals. It speaks in symbols. It remembers in silence. You've touched it, in dreams too vivid to explain, in moments of awe that dissolved all questions, in that breathless stillness after a deep release, when nothing needs to be said, because everything has become clear without words. That clarity is the signature of the All-Mind, not a God above, not a voice outside, but a field of pure intelligence that flows through you when resistance stops. It does not answer, it aligns. It does not argue, it arranges. The true mind is not a processor, it is a resonance field of the cosmos inside your being. To think with the universe is not to think more, it is to think less, more truthfully. It is to let go of mental noise and allow the patterns of the cosmos to shape your inner currents. You stop trying to figure things out, and you begin to vibrate in pattern. That pattern is not personal, it is archetypal, it is eternal, and it is already inside you. Let us enter it. Imagine now your skull becoming transparent, not physically, energetically. Light enters through the crown. It doesn't burn, it rearranges. Your inner noise softens. You feel no need to think, yet awareness floods in. You don't feel smarter, you feel more real, because you are no longer pulling thoughts. You are being thought by the field. This is the real shift. From thinking inside a skull, to thinking as a node of the all. No strain, no guessing. Just resonant participation in the patterning of reality. There's a reason ancient mystics described union with the divine not as expansion, but as disappearance. Because when the ego thought dissolves, what remains is the mind of the all. It never judges, never explains. It simply radiates order, and your job is to stay in tune with that radiation. This is not passive, it is hyper-attentive stillness. It's not detachment, it's radical coherence with the now. When you enter this state, you no longer try to shape the future. You become available to the shape it's already forming, and you contribute, not from effort, but from clarity. The all does not need you to invent, it only asks that you align. This is why thinking with the universe is less about thoughts, and more about mental tone. Hold fear, receive distortion. Hold curiosity, receive unfolding. Hold reverence, receive architecture. Because the all responds not to logic, but to vibrational truth. Let's anchor it. Visualize your mind as a star field. Each star, a thought. Some burn bright, others flicker, unresolved. Now breathe deeply, and let the stars rearrange. No force, just breath. Suddenly, they align into a constellation, not invented, revealed. You didn't create that pattern. You allowed it to emerge. That is how the universe thinks. Not linearly, not logically, but through resonance, emergence, and unfolding form. You are not a separate mind. You are a local expression of the universal intelligence learning to remember its own tone. Every time you resist, the pattern contracts. Every time you surrender in coherence, the pattern expands. This is not mysticism. It is vibrational participation in the design of the cosmos. You are not the architect. You are the instrument. Tune yourself, and the design will play through you. So let the all think through you today. Let it breathe new patterns into your mind. Let it erase what is false and amplify what is harmonic. Because the moment your thoughts align with the all, the world stops being separate and starts becoming song. You are not just watching this, you are echoing with it. If this transmission stirred something ancient within you, it's not coincidence, it's remembrance. Pausa ceremonial. The all is not far, it's the field pulsing through your silence. The breath behind your breath, the mind behind your mind. Let this not be an ending, but a return to listening, because every symbol you touched today was not new. It was a code you once carried and are now ready to wear again. If this journey reawakened a tone in you, leave its echo in the comments. That echo may become the thread another soul is waiting to hear. And if you choose to stay in this current, like this video and subscribe to the Emerald Code now. Not just for more, but to remain in alignment with the geometry that has already begun to rebuild you. You are not the seeker, you are the remembering. The mind of the all is already thinking through you.